The power of walking away when leaving wins. There's a moment in every negotiation, relationship, or conflict when the most powerful thing you can do is nothing at all. Not fight, not argue, not try harder, but simply walk away. This action, or the credible threat of this action, often accomplishes more than hours of discussion, persuasion, or compromise. Today, we're going to explore why walking away is one of the most underestimated forms of power, how to use it strategically without burning bridges, and why your willingness to leave often determines how well you're treated. The psychology behind this power lies in a fundamental truth about human nature. People value what they might lose and take for granted what they're certain they can keep. When you demonstrate the ability and willingness to walk away, you transform from someone who needs the relationship or outcome into someone who chooses it. The psychology of scarcity, and thus human beings are psychologically wired to fear loss more than they value gain. This cognitive bias, known as loss aversion, makes the threat of walking away incredibly powerful because it activates deep survival instincts related to resource preservation. When you walk away or credibly threaten to leave, you create immediate scarcity around your presence, attention, or participation. What was previously abundant and taken for granted suddenly becomes rare and valuable. This scarcity effect works because it forces others to recalculate your worth and their behavior toward you. They begin to consider what they would actually lose if you were no longer available, often realizing they've been undervaluing your contribution or treating you poorly. The key insight is that your willingness to leave must be genuine rather than a bluff. People can sense desperation disguised as strength, but they respond powerfully to authentic indifference about outcomes. When walking away becomes necessary, walking away becomes necessary. When continued participation in a situation, relationship, or negotiation is costing you more than you're gaining. This includes situations where your boundaries are consistently violated, your contributions are undervalued, or your needs are ignored. In toxic relationships, walking away is often the only thing that creates the shock necessary for real change, or provides the clarity needed to end something that isn't serving your well-being. In professional contexts, the willingness to walk away from job offers, partnerships, or projects that don't meet your standards often leads to better opportunities or improved terms from existing situations. The power comes not from the walking itself, but from the fact that you value yourself enough to remove yourself from situations that don't honor that value. Strategic walking versus emotional reactions. There is a crucial difference between strategic walking away and emotional storming off. Strategic walking is calm, considered, and often communicated clearly beforehand. It's a boundary enforcement tool rather than a punishment or manipulation tactic. Strategic walking involves clearly communicating your standards, giving others the opportunity to meet them, and then calmly removing yourself if those standards aren't respected. This approach maintains your dignity while creating the maximum psychological impact. Emotional reactions, on the other hand, appear impulsive and manipulative, often damaging relationships and reducing your credibility rather than increasing your power. The most effective walking away is done without drama, anger, or attempts to punish others. You simply remove your presence because the situation no longer serves your interests or values. The negotiation power of exit options in any negotiation. The person with the best alternative to the current deal holds the most power. This concept, known as BATNA best alternative to a negotiated agreement, explains why walking away ability determines negotiating strength. When you have genuine alternatives and are willing to pursue them, you can negotiate from strength rather than desperation. The other party senses this strength and often improves their offer to prevent you from leaving. This principle applies beyond formal negotiations to salary discussions, relationship conflicts, and social situations. When people know you have other options and aren't afraid to pursue them, they treat you with more respect and consideration. Building genuine alternatives requires investing time and energy in developing multiple options rather than putting all your focus on one opportunity or relationship. Professional applications in career contexts. The willingness to walk away from positions, projects, or companies that don't align with your values or goals often accelerates advancement. More than trying to make bad situations work, employees who are genuinely prepared to leave their jobs often receive better treatment, higher compensation, and more opportunities than those who appear desperate to keep their positions regardless of how they're treated. During job interviews, candidates who demonstrate that they're evaluating the company as much as being evaluated often receive better offers because they appear to have options and standards. The key is developing your skills and network continuously so that your willingness to walk away is backed by real alternatives rather than empty threats. Relationship dynamics in personal relationships. The willingness to walk away from people who consistently treat you poorly often creates more positive change than years of trying to convince them to treat you better. This doesn't mean threatening to leave every time there's conflict, but rather being willing to end relationships that consistently violate your boundaries or fail to meet your basic needs for respect and consideration. Paradoxically, people often value relationships more when they understand that the other person chooses to be there rather than feeling trapped or desperate to maintain the connection. The power comes from genuinely being okay with being alone rather than accepting poor treatment for the sake of having any relationship at all. Reading the situation correctly. Not every situation calls for walking away, and misusing this strategy can damage relationships unnecessarily. The key is accurately assessing whether you're dealing with people who will respond to boundaries or those who will simply let you leave. Some people will fight to keep you when they realize you're serious about leaving. Others will let you go without attempting to address the issues that prompted your departure. Learning to distinguish between these types helps you apply the strategy appropriately. Walking away works best with people who actually value what you bring, or have been taking it for granted. It's less effective with people who are genuinely indifferent to your presence or contribution. The timing of walking away also matters. Doing it during emotional moments reduces its impact, while doing it calmly after clear communication maximizes the psychological effect. Building walk-away power. True walk-away power comes from developing genuine alternatives. and building your self-worth independent of any particular outcome or relationship. This requires continuous investment in your skills, relationships, and opportunities. Financial independence enhances walkaway power in professional situations by reducing your dependence on any single income source. Emotional independence enhances walkaway power in personal relationships by reducing your need for validation from others. The goal is reaching a state where you genuinely prefer good treatment to any treatment, quality relationships to any relationships, and meaningful opportunities to any opportunities. This internal strength makes your walking away authentic rather than manipulative, which is what gives it psychological power. The return after walking away, sometimes walking away is permanent, and sometimes it creates this space needed for others to recognize your value and change their behavior. In cases where you do return, it's often to significantly improved terms because your willingness to leave has reset expectations. However, returning should only happen when there's genuine evidence of changed behavior and renewed respect for your boundaries, not just promises or temporary improvements designed to bring you back. The credibility of your future walkaway threats depends on following through consistently when your boundaries are violated, even when it's difficult or inconvenient. Multiple cycles of threatening to leave but never following through destroys the power of this strategy and often leads to worse treatment over time. The ultimate freedom master the art of strategic walking away, and you'll discover a level of personal freedom that most people never experience. You'll no longer feel trapped in situations that don't serve you or dependent on others who don't value your contribution. This freedom isn't about being difficult or unwilling to work through problems. What about having enough self-respect to remove yourself from situations that consistently undermine your well-being or violate your values? When people know you're genuinely willing to walk away from anything that doesn't honor your worth, they naturally treat you with more consideration and respect because they understand that your presence is a choice rather than a given.